What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, Season 6, Episode 7, Fatal Attraction. Let's get started with Tyree. So Tyree contacted a private investigator to get to the truth about Carmela. So at this point, Tyree still believes that Carmela has a husband who is standing in between him and Carmela. So I guess he thinks that Carmela is married and she was sneaking around behind her husband's back and was hooking up with Tyree online. Her husband found out, and now the husband is preventing Carmela from communicating with him. Like I said before, Tyree has a wild imagination. He should really consider, well, they're on strike right now, but he should really consider getting into Hollywood as a writer of television shows or movies or even writing books, because his imagination is just wild. Because the stories that he creates to justify what's going on just because he doesn't want to believe the truth is just amazing. So he pays a visit to the private investigator with his sister. So the girl in the picture, they come to find out through the private investigator that she is actually an adult. She does adult content on a cam on her laptop cam or whatever, her laptop or computer camera. So she does adult content, right? So I guess she's like at home or whatever, turns on her computer, turns on the camera, and does what it do, for the right amount of money. So Tyree says that maybe the girl in the photos and the person behind the text messages are actually two different people. So when he said that, I was like, oh, okay, so a light bulb is finally going off in Tyree's head, where he's understanding that the picture is definitely Carmela. Okay, I'm assuming this girl's name really is Carmela, but it's not the one who is communicating with him through text. So I'm like, okay, he's finally getting it. He's understanding that the image and the messages are not the same entity. So the private investigator shows video of Carmela, of what she does for a living. And in the video, you can hear her talking. And Tyree confirms that that is not the voice that he associates with the Carmela that he knows. So now he knows that this girl has got nothing to do with whatever he had going on with whoever he's been communicating with. So it looks like it's finally beginning to sink in. Tyree says now that he wants to reach out to Carmela. So he thinks that Carmela is working with Christian to deceive him. He wants to reach out, I guess, to this adult star, and thinks that maybe this girl, this actress, is working with Christian, and they're both in cahoots in deceiving him. So he contacts the number that's on the website, but there's no answer. Now that he's beginning to accept now that, he's possibly been catfished. So now he wants to let the rest of his family know what's going on. So he has a meeting with his mother and his other sister. So when he tells his mom and his sister that he's been communicating with this young lady who he thought lived in Barbados, and then the sister was like, oh, so that's the reason why you took that trip to Barbados last year. And he's like, yes, that's why I went to Barbados. Then they asked him, well, so what happened when you got there? And he says nothing, because the girl never showed up. So the sister is getting upset because her brother's been taken for a fool, and this news that he just dropped on his mother almost took her out, because a mom, I think she was having heart palpitations. I think the lady was having heart palpitations because she was like, oh my God. She really couldn't believe what she was hearing. I was like, oh my God. Tyree, go gentle, please be gentle with this news that you're delivering to your mother, because her health is already kind of weak, and now you're dropping this bomb on her. How you've been communicating with somebody that might end up being a man, and you've been catfished, and you've been, please be gentle. Go gentle on your mother, please. So the sister was, visibly shocked, and the sister wanted to throw hands. She wanted to find these people who've been playing around with her brother. So Tyree tells them that he wants to go back to Barbados. So when he said that, I was like, man, we lost him. We done lost Tyree again. We thought we had him, but now it seems like we've lost him. There is nothing going on in Barbados. If you want to, why do you want to go to Barbados to confront Christian? Because you're not going to find no Carmelo there, because Carmela is in California. Why do you want to go to Barbados to confront confront whoever you think is behind these text messages. So he says that he wants to go to Barbados to find the person behind the text messages because this is going to be closure for him. And so Tyree believes this person was definitely a woman. He says that whoever he was communicating with was a woman, even though the producers told him it was a man, even though the producers told him that we've actually spoken to him. You can even hear his voice. All of that, he still believes that this person he was communicating with on text was a woman and that they really did have a connection and that this connection was real. So I don't know if he's wanting to go to Barbados to like confront Christian, the man, or if he's going to Barbados because he still thinks that there's a woman out there that might be behind these messages and that maybe him and that woman possibly have a chance. I don't know, but it was like an up and down scene for me because just when I thought that he was getting it, it was like he took 5 steps back and you realize, no, he really doesn't understand what's going on. What he needs to do at this point, even though he may not have a purpose on the show anymore, which is fine because you're going to keep your dignity and your sanity. What he needs to do, he needs to let go of this whole entire situation. I understand that you fell in love with who you thought Carmela was, but now that you know the truth, don't even bother to go to Barbados. Don't bother to contact Carmela. Just don't bother with any of these people anymore and just work on healing and moving forward. Just like you found this person, you can possibly find another person who might end up being a real person that you can really connect with. So I need Tyree to just leave it all alone. Leave it behind you and press forward. Moving on to Riley and Violet. So they are at the War Remembrance Museum. Violet is not in a good mood because she has a lot on her mind. She did not like how the visit went between Riley and her family, and so she needs to address some things with him. So they get a chance to talk, and she thinks that he acted he was too rude to her family and especially to her mother, and that, he has these, really rude American ways about him, and she wants to address it. So she tells Riley that her mom told her that she thinks Riley is a very jealous man and that he wants to control her, which is really funny because in this relationship, Violet is the more controlling. I almost called her violent. Violet is the more controlling one. She's the one that runs the show. She's the one that's more, her personality is a little bit stronger than his. She's very demanding. She's very rough around the edges with her words and how she communicates with him. So it's really funny to me that her mother came to the conclusion that Riley was the one that was controlling. I'm like, how in the world? What did they see to make them think that Riley was controlling her? Unless, Violet has been telling her family some things that I don't know may not be true, or things that are going on behind the scenes that we're not witness to, but I have yet to see Riley control Violet. So the mom also said that Riley was not thoughtful because he didn't bring a gift for her, for the mother. So Riley admits that he does need to learn more about her culture. And I don't know what that means because bringing a gift for the mother, I don't think is very specific to the Vietnamese culture. If he was going to bring presents for the 2 daughters, you would think that it would just behoove him to include a gift for the woman who gave birth to the woman that he wants to make his wife. I don't understand how he could have forgotten the mother. That really blew my mind. Riley wants to know. So then after, he feels like she's done scolding him about his rude behavior and not bringing gifts and, being very rude in front of her family by calling her a liar and being controlling. Riley says to her, well, can we talk about you getting to understand my culture? So he tells her that when they were at the seamstress, she called him fat and ugly. And I don't know where he got the word fat from because when she called him old and ugly. She didn't call him fat. She called him old and ugly to the seamstress. So he gives her this whole entire race relations lesson, saying that when you refer to a dark-skinned black person in any kind of negative light by calling them ugly, for example, then you are perpetuating a stereotype that black people or that dark-skinned black people are bad. You're painting them in a very negative light. And there's a stereotype that, black people are bad people, or they're, we know what's going on. We know what the stereotypes are. And there's also stereotypes about dark-skinned black people. So that dark-skinned black people are unattractive, dark-skinned black people are, not clean. We all know the plethora of the BS that is associated with being black and being black and dark-skinned in this world. So he explains to her that when you do that, you're perpetuating a stereotype and you're making it seem like it's okay for your people to refer to my people like that. And because, when she said it, she was laughing, she was giggling, she thought it was funny. So like she wasn't taking it too seriously, but it really hit home for him. It hurt his feelings a lot. So when he tells her this, when he explains to her that you can't do this, especially to people of another culture, she understands. She's like, okay, you know what? I get it. I hear what you're saying. And I do apologize. And so she is very apologetic about what she did. And it seemed like it was pretty sincere, because in her confessional, she also talked about how, he made her realize how hurtful her words were, not just to him, but to the entire culture. So I'm glad that she understood that, telling her that, it wasn't funny and don't make a spectacle of me. So it seems like they ended on some really good terms. They had a better understanding of each other, a better understanding of each other's culture. So from there on, they go to dinner and they talk about, the whole situation of what happens if your family likes me, doesn't like me, etc. So she says to him, in my culture, if my family does not like you, then we cannot get married. It's a done deal. No discussion, no negotiations. It's over. And he says, well, in my culture, yes, we take into consideration what our families think about our partners, but at the end of the day, I'm not choosing to marry your family. I'm choosing to marry you. So it will not stop this train from moving if my family doesn't like you. And then why does she have to bring up the damn father? So she brings up his father and she says, well, your father really likes me because, we have a good rapport. We communicate. I talk to your father all the time. Like she's just really bragging and boasting on what a great relationship she has with his dad. Well, little does she know that the dad has been telling Riley about those text messages that she was sending to the father. So whenever her and Riley would get into a fight, she would contact his father and she would say like really horrible things about Riley to his dad. I don't know what she thought she was going to accomplish from that, because that's his son. So it don't matter what you got going on or what you have to say. He's going to side with his son no matter what. So, and y'all are not married yet. There's no grandchildren involved here, and you live on the other side of the world. So why in the world would the father choose you over his own son? So when she brought up the father and what a great relationship she has with the father, Raleigh was like, yeah, let's talk about my dad. So, my dad told me that you were sending these text messages to him about me, and they were very, very negative text messages. You were saying some really bad things about me. Well, Violet didn't even want to talk about it. Violet was like, that's not what we're here for. I want to have a nice dinner. I don't want to talk about negative things. And Riley says something about like how this is her habit. This is her MO. Whenever he wants to address her wrongdoings, her shortcomings, all of a sudden she doesn't want to talk about it. It's just too much for her. She doesn't want to talk about it. So he's like, you know what? Maybe it's my approach. So I'm going to have my friend talk about something with her that's been bothering me. And maybe if it's coming from a woman or coming from someone else, she's going to receive it differently. So he says to her, I really want to introduce you to my friend who's so much like a sister to me. So he gets his friend on the phone. I'm sorry, I forgot her name. He gets the friend on the phone. And after the very brief pleasantries of, oh my God, you're so beautiful, da da da. After we get through all of that, the friend got down and dirty and she got down to business. And she asked Violet, she was like, Violet, how come you told my boy to delete that dating app, but you never deleted the dating app? What the hell is up with that? So Violet at first acts like she didn't hear. She was like, huh? What? I can't hear her. What'd she say? So Riley repeats it. And Riley says, she said, why did you tell me to delete the dating app that we met on, but you didn't delete the dating app? It's still on your damn phone. What's tea, Violet? So Violet looks at him and she was like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. And that's where their scene ends. Y'all, Violet is a player, okay? She wrote the book on how to be a player. She is a player. Violet, honey, if Riley thinks that he is the only one in her life right now, he's got another thing coming. Violet is a player. She's a businesswoman. She's in the business of getting money from these men. She's a businesswoman and she's a player. And it's so obvious to me. I don't see how Riley doesn't see it. I think Riley, I don't want to perpetuate stereotypes, but I think Riley probably thought that he was going to get a very meek and mild and submissive Asian woman. He didn't know that he was going to be getting with Violet, who was a force to be reckoned with. She's got a mouth on her. She has a personality. She is, look, I don't know what he thought was going on, but what he's getting, I don't think it's what he's expecting or what he expected. So, like I always say, good luck to all of that, because if they decide to stay together, if Riley and Violet decide to really stay together and make this work, and he's going to bring her to America, this is their relationship. We just got a preview of how their relationship is going to go. This is going to be their relationship. The constant arguing and bickering, not trusting one another. Yeah, this is going to be it's not going to be peaceful at all. If I was Riley, I would be like, if I was Riley's friend, I would tell him, man, come on home. Don't waste your time here. Do not waste your time here. Come on home. Because for her to say, well, my mom thinks that you're controlling, when she's the one that's been controlling the whole entire relationship. Anyways, moving on to Cleo and Christian. So they wake up the next morning and nothing happened the night before. And Cleo didn't expect anything to happen, but she thought that there were going to be more snuggling and being physically close to one another, because that's her love language, physical touch. But none of that went on. He zonked out, and he woke up the next morning and he was apologizing to her. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was just so tired, blah, 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 whatever. And she was like, well, sometimes, you had your arm around me when you were sleeping and sometimes you didn't. And he said, Cleo said, and sometimes, I snuggled you or you snuggled me. And he goes, I was the little spoon. He goes, I was the little spoon. Yeah. Yeah, Christian. There were times when you were the little spoon. So when they wake up, Cleo is applying a topical estrogen gel. And Cleo says, in America, y'all take pills, estrogen pills or whatever, but that could be very damaging to your liver because it has to be processed through your liver. So here we just use the gel, and it's like a cream that she rubs on her arm. And he was a little bit uncomfortable with that, or he kind of freaked out about that. And Cleo says, don't worry, it's going to dry up and you don't have to worry about, getting my trans woman estrogen gel on yourself and then you turn into a trans woman. So don't worry about that. I mean, I'm like, wow. I never would have thought. So in person, Christian says that Christian says in his confessional that online he felt like that him and Cleo were really connecting, they were really vibing, but now that they are in person, he feels a little bit like he feels out of his element, he says. And I'm not exactly sure what that meant, but he said that he feels a little bit out of his element. And even though online, he was really attracted to how open Cleo was about her transition and about, where she is right now in her life. She was so open about it. He found that attractive. But now that he's with her and it's like a real, face-to-face relationship now, he's not feeling as comfortable, I guess. So they start off their date. So Cleo is like, okay, what do you want to do? Let's plan what we're going to be doing for the day. And Christian says, no, I'm not a planner. Let's just go out there and whatever happens, happens. So Cleo goes along with it. But Cleo says that she felt uncomfortable with that, with the spontaneity of it, because it triggers her anxiety. And so she would rather come up with a plan of what they need to do for the day instead of just winging it. So Christian apologized. This is where he apologized. This is where he apologized about being so tired. So Cleo was like, oh, don't worry about it. I understand. And, it's no big deal because it's not like we were going to do anything anyway. So I'm not that easy. Okay, fine. So Christian wanted to go to, they were talking about this at the bar. I forgot. Let me go back a little bit. They went to a bar and they were sitting just the two of them. And this is where Christian apologized about being so tired and falling asleep. And this is where Cleo tells him, well, it's okay because nothing would have happened anyway. And then Christian says to her, oh, so you're a really classy woman. You're not an easy catch. You're a really classy woman. I'm not like that. Okay, fine. So this environment that they were in, where it was just the two of them, Cleo was really feeling it, right? But Christian wasn't. So Christian was like, well, let's go inside where everybody else is, because I'm used to having a lively crowd and, I'm used to things kind of, like a real jumping atmosphere. So Cleo was like, okay, I'm not really into that, but I'm going to do it for him. So they go inside the bar where there's a whole bunch of people, music, and it was just sensory overload for poor Cleo. But she was a trooper. She stuck with it. So Christian tells her this airplane story. On his way to Europe, he said that he probably had too much to drink. He was, trying to have a conversation with this young lady on the plane. I guess he was like coming on to her or something, and the young lady didn't like it or something. I don't know. He wanted more drinks, but the flight attendant refused to serve him any more drinks. So I don't know if he thought this was going to be a funny story or what, but Cleo really wasn't feeling it, because it seemed as if on his way to see her, he was trying to pick up another female on the plane. That's how she interpreted this story. And he was like, no, I'm just trying to let you know, like, what happened to me on the plane, how I was drunk out of my mind and I wanted more drinks. So the story was a complete fail. And I'm beginning to wonder if maybe Christian is beginning to drop these little seeds of doubt, hoping that Cleo picks up on it, so that Cleo can make the decision that maybe this relationship is not for them. That's what I'm beginning to think, because how are you going to tell her that you were that you were having some type of an encounter with another female on the flight to see Cleo? Like, how did you think she was going to respond to that? So it doesn't end there. So they're inside the bar, and there's a group of young ladies next to them. So Christian begins to engage with them, asking them, do y'all come here all the time? Or you're here celebrating something? So he basically wants to be included in that group. And he kind of invites Cleo to join him. And Cleo's like, nope, can't do it. Not today, because this is all too much for me. Social anxiety, sensory overload, all of this is very triggering for her, so she can't do it. So it's basically Christian talking to these other ladies, and of course it was very disrespectful to Cleo, because you came all the way here to connect with Cleo, and now here you are trying to connect with a group of strangers who've got nothing to do with anything. And this is supposed to be a moment for you and Cleo to get to know each other better, but you're trying to get to know this whole entire group better instead of your own girlfriend. Like, what's tea, Christian? Like, what's going on? So yeah, it was not right. Cleo obviously wanted the evening to be a little bit more intimate, a little bit more personal, for them to get to know each other better. And Christian did a complete 180, and it was very disrespectful. And for him to be that bold about it, it just makes me think that he's just trying to drop these seeds to create this doubt in Cleo, so that she can make the decision to not be with him, so that he doesn't have to be the bad guy by breaking up with the trans woman, where it can be interpreted as, oh, he couldn't deal with it, he couldn't handle her being trans. I don't know, but Christian is up to something and it's not smelling good. Moving on to Jasmine and Gino. Jasmine and Gino right now to me are so incredibly fake. This is a fake storyline to me, fake drama, because they want to be on the show, or the producers wanted them on the show, so they have to create some type of conflict. There is nothing wrong with Jasmine and Gino. They're doing fine. Neither one is jealous of the other. All of this is so contrite and so made up. So they go to the Panama Canal, and Gino has a background in engineering, so he was really excited about seeing the damn Panama Canal. So during the trip, he's very distracted. He can't focus on anything that Jasmine is saying to him, and he can't focus because he's really upset about Jasmine's friend telling him that Jasmine and Dane used to date, because he thought that Dane was just a friend and nothing else. Come to find out, the friend tells him that no, they actually dated before she began dating you. So that's not sitting well with him, right? Because Jasmine never told him that. So, Jasmine is keeping information from him. So Jasmine is picking up on this. And so she keeps asking him, are you okay? What's wrong? You're not yourself, blah, blah, blah. And so finally he tells her, this whole Dane situation is not sitting right with me. Your friend tells me that you used to date him. And he point blank asks her, are you cheating on me with him? And so she begins to giggle. And he was like, it's not funny. Why are you giggling? And she goes, oh, I giggle whenever I get nervous. And he's like, what are you nervous about? So he acts as if he's really worried about Jasmine being unfaithful and what's really going on between Jasmine and Dane. And I'm not falling for it. I am not falling for the okie doke. It's all planned and scripted. So I don't know exactly what time they got to the Panama Canal, but as they're talking about Dane, all of a sudden it's nighttime. It is pitch black out there. And I'm like, how long were y'all out there? So I feel like they were out there for so long because they had to get the scene right. And I think that they were constantly rehearsing and going over their lines to make this scene appear as plausible as possible. But I'm not falling for it. So Gino says that he never would have paid for, then he finds out that Dane lives in the same apartment building that she lives in. He's like, well, I never would have paid for that apartment if I knew that your ex-boyfriend was living there and y'all were meeting up for coffee every day and talking on the phone every day or whatever the hell. So so then he asks, somehow the question, the conversation veered into intimacy, and he asked her, do you think, what did he say? Oh, I cannot believe that I'm even talking about this because it's so fake. Because Gino rejects Jasmine. So somehow or another, I think he asked her, do you think about him when you're with me, or, when we're being intimate or something like that? And she goes, they're not intimate. They're never intimate. They're not intimate enough. So I'm wondering, maybe he asked her, do you think about him in that way? And she was like, well, because you reject me, you don't want to do anything with me. Yes, there are times when I think of him in that way, but it doesn't mean that I'm attracted to him now, that I want to be with him now. But the thought does cross my mind because you don't want to be with me. So he gets upset about this, and I'm like, whatever. Jasmine and Gino are fine. There's nothing going on with them. There's just, I can't waste any more time on Jasmine and Gino. Moving on to Nicola and Misha. So they go sightseeing in a town called Haifa. And when they get there, she notices a group of people who are dressed really, really nice. And Nicola tells her, yeah, because it's a wedding party. You can clearly see there was a bride and her wedding party. So everybody was dressed to the nines. And Misha was like, no, that's not a bride. That's her actual outfit. Like, what? That's what I thought she said. Misha, you cannot mistake that gown for anything other than a wedding gown. So she feels underdressed, even though they're like in a town. They're not like in a building or in a restaurant or in some type of a space. They're out and about in this town, but she feels underdressed for some reason. So she changes her clothes in the car. It makes Nicola very uncomfortable because she's changing her clothes in the car. And that whole scene, I didn't understand why she felt this pressure to change her clothes. So then they start talking about their relationship, and we all know that she told him that if they're not engaged by the time she leaves to go back home, she's going to end the relationship. The relationship is going to be over, which really surprised him because he thought that this was a real relationship, that this relationship was growing and they were getting closer and getting to know each other. So this relationship is like on a one track trajectory towards something more permanent. But she's like, no, I'm getting off this train if we're not going to be engaged by the end of my trip. And he's like, I don't understand why we have to rush into anything. We're taking our time to get to know each other. But anyways, later on, she drags him to a bar. And he didn't want to go. And he was like, okay, I'll go, but it's only going to be 15 minutes. I only want to be here 15 minutes because this is very unchristian, unorthodox. This is not what devout Christians do, hang out in a bar. So they're at the bar, they're having a conversation, and he says, I'll go to the bar with her because I don't want to lose her. So whatever she wants, I'm going to do because I don't want to lose her, because she's threatening to break up with me if we are not engaged by the time she goes back to America. So they're having a conversation about Christianity and devoutness. And, they're completely on different pages when it comes to religion. She's very loosey-goosey Christian. He's a very strict Christian. So I don't know how this is going to work. And not only is he a strict Christian, but he's a strict Christian that's very judgmental of Christians who are not as strict as he is. Because she told him that once a year she'll smoke a cigarette on New Year's Day. And he was like, oh my God, Misha, are you serious? Misha. He says this as they're in a bar. So then later on, she goes, well, let's go dance. I love dancing. Let's go. And he's like, no, Christians don't dance. So because he doesn't want to lose her, he agrees. So they start dancing. Next thing you know, he's dropping it like it's hot, right? He's really getting into the groove of things. I don't know exactly how long they were there, but the 5-minute limit that he gave to the dance floor probably turned into an all-nighter. He was having a grand old time. But trust and believe me, when this is all said and done, he's going to throw this right back in her face. Even though he appears to be having a really good time, he's going to throw this back in her face. He's going to use this against her to prove that she's not Christian enough for him. So maybe this relationship is not going to work. Moving on to Statler and Dempsey. So Statler has arrived in London. Dempsey missed her flight from Thailand because Dempsey, I think, was on vacation in Thailand with her family. And she's supposed to be on a flight on her way back to London as well, but she missed her flight. So when Statler arrives, she's not going to be meeting up with Dempsey that day. So she's worried now. I mean, her anxiety's on 10 because they haven't been communicating a lot within the past few days. Now she's worried. Is this relationship going to work? Is she losing interest in me? What's going on? So I couldn't be with someone like that, someone whose anxiety is that fragile. And I was like, what are you so worried about? Her flight is going to be delayed about a day or so. She's definitely coming back home to England because that's where she lives. She's not going to stay in Thailand. So what is the problem? But anyway, she was really freaking out. So day 2 in London, she wakes up extremely sick. Something is going on. She's throwing up. It's coming out on the other end. So something is happening. So she feels as if she's too sick to meet up with Dempsey. So she texts Dempsey and says, hey, I don't think we can meet up today because I'm really, really sick. So she goes to the doctor, coming to find out she had a parasite. Okay, fine. The doctor gives her some medication for her nausea. She feels a little bit better. So now she's willing to meet up with Dempsey. So as she's waiting for Dempsey to show up at their meeting spot, Statler is so nervous. I thought this girl was going to pass out. She was, breathing hard. She kept on crouching on the ground or squatting on the ground. She was so nervous. I thought she was going to just pass out or get sick all over again. So they finally meet, and it was really cute when they met. They were both extremely shy, very awkward around one another. It was really adorable. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to say. It was so awkward. But, I'm pretty sure they were pleased with one another. And yeah, we'll go from there with Statler and Dempsey's story next week. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate you spending your time with me. If you like my content, subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget on your way out to rate the video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.